I do do realize that you're one step closer to drinks, and I am one of the people in your way, so I will try to make this as brief as possible. Symplur is a healthcare social listening company, and we are making the voices of all healthcare stakeholders available to be heard by the industry. I'm going to go through a few slides, and then I'm going to tell you a little personal story, and then we'll sort of get into a little product land. So hopefully that won't take too long. Where can healthcare companies find all their consumers in one place? Needle, meat, haystack. They're out there, an endless stream of people looking for healthcare solutions, as eager to find you as you are to find them. But where are they? Who are they? And what do they need? What if you could harness the power of social media to tell you exactly what doctors and patients are looking for? What medicines do they need? What help can they use? Whose advice will they trust? Introducing Symplur Signals, tracking over 1 billion tweets to tell you exactly what doctors and patients are thinking. Symplur Signals analyzes Twitter feeds in real time, listening in as people share feelings about sickness and health, saving you months of clinical trial research, and giving all of us the one thing patients value most: hope. So before I continue with the slides, and we'll talk about the product a little bit, I just wanted to sort of tell a little bit of a personal story and journey that my family's had in sort of the healthcare world. As Carwin mentioned, I have 3 beautiful daughters, 13, 11, and 9. And about 6 years ago, my 11-year-old daughter was diagnosed with a neurological disorder. And when the doctor told us her diagnosis, you know, my wife and we just didn't even know how to process it, to be honest. It was one of those sledgehammer moments, and you don't know how to process it, let alone thinking about how to get information or research, or you're basically at the mercy of the one person that's giving you the diagnosis at that moment in front of you. So for 6 months, our lives were 100% consumed by this disease on a daily basis. And it was interesting, I think one of Rob's slides on the patient journey, it sort of struck home, that one that just looked like a map of just a million things. And I was thinking about it, thinking that I don't know if that just represents rare diseases. I think that's maybe almost any disease, you know, when it's been diagnosed at that point. But the point really is that we were desperate for information. We had no context for what we were going through. For me, discussing our situation with colleagues and friends was somewhat therapeutic, but more importantly, it actually introduced me to some people that were going through some similar things. So right there, I was able to access, at that point in time, critical information for me. So, you know, we weren't the only ones dealing with this situation. There were other people. We weren't unique in that sense. But I was constantly asking them, you know, was there a light at the end of the tunnel? Is your child having the same side effects from the medications? You know, just getting any type of real insights. I remember asking a doctor about the potential side effects from drugs, and honestly, I couldn't get a straight answer about the potential side effects. It was quite frustrating. And I remember one conversation I had with a colleague who just said, you know, you're in what I call the roller coaster phase, where it's just up and down, up, and he goes, hopefully it'll level out, we'll get some answers, just hold on. And just being able to interact with someone like that in a real life situation, not read a 4-page or 20-page, drug disclaimer document, was the information we needed at that time, information based in reality. So why am I telling you this story? As parents or caregivers representing the patient voice, our thirst for information and knowledge never stops. It's always there to this day. What's been very interesting on a personal and professional level is looking at the social media landscape over the last 5-6 years, and seeing how it's transformed so rapidly that what people are using it for, what they used it for 5 or 6 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago versus a year ago, is drastically different. Each case and story has its own unique characteristics, but being able to access significant information from cases and stories like ours, I think, is critical. More importantly, being able to utilize social media to listen and access the voices and conversations of other patients, caregivers, doctors, and not be constrained by physical, geographic boundaries is vital. It's really vital in gaining crucial knowledge and insight. I mean, I remember feeling constrained by the doctors I had access to in our personal network, and not being able to, whether it was geographically or the hospital we were engaged with at that time, and it just seemed very limiting, and it didn't seem to make sense. Excuse me. So major social media platforms have made, as most of you know, information very accessible, but getting to the key insights and conversations that are taking place has been historically cumbersome and difficult. So Symplur, we feel, has cracked the code, and finally all the healthcare stakeholder groups' voices can be heard. So a little bit about Symplur and our application. One, we made it very simple to use. We are 100% about healthcare. We are a social listening platform that focuses on Twitter. We believe Twitter is the new public square, if you will, for conversations that are going on, not just by thought leaders, but by all stakeholders in the healthcare space. To give you some context around the data that's behind our search, we're tracking over 10,000 hashtags, terms, and users, over 15,000 predefined healthcare topics, 300 million healthcare-related Twitter profiles, and 1.5 billion healthcare-related tweets that we've indexed that are behind our system. The level of Twitter access that we have, once we're tracking a term, we're tracking it regardless of the language it's being tweeted in, regardless of where the user is tweeting from, we're tracking everything about it. We have, and we've incorporated some of our own proprietary algorithms into the system. One is something that we launched called the Healthcare Social Graph and Score, which, if you're in the agency world, and pharma for that matter, we think it's a better way of measuring influence. Now, I'm not one of the engineers, so getting into the details of the recursive algorithm that runs it, I'll be going way over my head, but more than happy to try to explain it a little bit more in the discussion. So Symplur is easy to use. Is put in a topic, locate where the conversations exist. Each of these represents a conversation going on within this topic. Understand the network dynamics of what's going on in that conversation. That's the key. You see, we have 15 different healthcare stakeholder groups identified. And you can instantly see not only who has certain levels of influence by the size of the node, You can also see the direction the conversations are taking place and the length of the conversations, being the thickness of the lines. When you find someone who you think has some influence in a conversation, you can go even deeper and find out more about that key opinion leader, let's call that person or organization. The healthcare social graph, where now we're revealing long-term influence over the last 52 weeks. What conversations are they heavily influencing? What topics are they? Who is mentioning them, and who are they mentioning? Identifying fellow caregivers and patients. So being able to go in and run tweet transcripts, so you're not going to an individual Twitter account and scrolling, you're saying, okay, I'm interested in what this person's been saying on this topic. You get a 30-day transcript of everything that person is discussing in that conversation. And while this is a listening tool, we do have the ability of interaction and engagement as well. You can reply, like, and retweet from right within the application. We can turn that feature on and off if that makes certain companies uncomfortable and in wanting just a listening tool versus an engagement tool as well. All through the real-time data of the Twitter universe. A new era is on the horizon, opening a gateway of understanding about the needs of doctors and patients. Symplur signals. Over 1 billion tweets. That is the presentation.
Quick one, is it free? Anyone can use that? They go onto the website, it's...
So we started out as, many of you might know, the healthcare hashtag project several years ago, where you could submit hashtags to be followed, and there's all sorts of data accessible for free on that website. Symplur Signals is our corporate platform that we sell access to both corporate and agencies alike.
Special offer for anyone that's here today, though.
Absolutely.
And the other point just to make, those of you that are at the awards this evening, the Symplur analysis and algorithms was run to shortlist the pharmaceutical social media company of the year. So there's quite a lot of research that's gone into that to actually pull together the shortlisted 5 companies that I'm going to get wrong if I say their names, so I won't say them, but go on. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, and on that point, we're actually going to host a call possibly next week to go in detail about how we went about ranking and what diseases we looked at. And then if any individual company that was shortlisted wants an even deeper dive about the analysis on their company, we're more than happy to host a private call with them as well. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, before we get the panel, a quick question for Josh, anything? I thought you glossed over the sexy stuff a bit too much, as I'm sure there'll be a few questions.
Hi, Dave from FarmyWeb. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of data that you've got around influencers, around hashtags, around the direction of conversation between the influencers within the healthcare sector. What sort of data do you have about the theme of topics, or what's driving a conversation with epilepsy in terms of positivity, negativity, and not just theme, but the
Sure.
actual?
So we actually, one of the other algorithms that we have in our system is a sentiment algorithm. And it's really, unlike some of the ones I've heard about, it's very transparent. We use positive and word dictionaries, and we give users access to change the sentiment of a word. So if we rank a word, let's say a -2 out of a -5, and you feel that it should be neutral, you can actually go into the system and label it neutral. If we have not ranked a word, you can go in and rank a word. So we give users a lot of flexibility and sort of building on top of our sentiment algorithm as well. I think that's what you were asking.
Yeah, hi. This is Maria from GSK. I just wanted to understand, this is great information and great insights coming through, and obviously very interesting for us. But from a privacy laws perspective, how does this work?
Well, I think it's pretty simple because everything we're dealing with is publicly disclosed, self-reported information. So we're not disclosing anything that someone hasn't disclosed themselves on Twitter. We are taking a direct feed at a high level from Twitter, the fire hose from Twitter, and we're wrapping our proprietary taxonomy around the data. So from a privacy standpoint, we really haven't seen any issues whatsoever.
Okay, we'll get actually join me again in thanking Josh for his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.